Hi, welcome to this video, and I hope you're interested in learning about art and its major role it plays in mythology. My first question for you is, are you familiar with Medusa? Well, your answer is likely yes. What is the immediate image that comes to mind when you think about her and her story? Likely it looks something like this. This woman is likely present in your nightmares, not your dreams, unless you're a weird reptile-obsessed freak like me. I have a pet lizard. The unusual and haunting artwork created of Medusa has likely helped ingrain the perception you have of her, and is also likely to be the reason that you are familiar with her in the first place. This is because the dramatic and iconic image of a woman with snakes coming from her head has influenced the modern character of Medusa displayed in entertainment. This is one of numerous examples where art plays a major role in the journey of a myth and how we remember it today. According to Discovery magazine, both Aristotle and modern scientists believe that sight is the most important sense of all, and this contributes to the reason why art has such a strong impact on us and our emotions, and really allows us to have a strong reaction and stronger impression, which is also true to these ancient myths. This is what we are going to dive into today, and you will get the chance to see an array of beautiful mythical pieces, as well as my analytical commentary of the role that art played in this specific myth. While the role of art plays a slightly different, altered role in the different myths, the main takeaways include that art helps myths be more understandable and memorable to the audience, helps them last throughout history, and can also alter and contribute to the evolution of how we view certain myths up until today. Now, the first myth that we are going to investigate is the famous myth of Persephone. The original Greek myth tells us how the beautiful Persephone, goddess of fertility and harvest, was kidnapped by Hades, lord of the underworld. After being brought to the underworld, Hades convinced Persephone to eat 4 pomegranate seeds, which meant she would inevitably have to return to the underworld every year. Also, the reason why we have seasons on Earth and why growth happens the most in the spring. The story also focuses heavily on the perspective of her mother, Demeter, and how hard it was for her to lose her darling Persephone. There are numerous art pieces created based off of this story, Persephone, and this beautiful oil painting of Persephone titled The Return of Persephone by Frederick Leighton in 1891 is an exquisite depiction of the pain and emotion both Persephone and her mother Demeter felt. This specific piece especially highlights the connection between mother and daughter, as the body positioning, expressions, and the whole layout of the piece enforces that bond. While you may not yourself be abducted in your lifetime and brought to the underworld, this piece evokes emotion with your own relationship with your own mom, or vice versa with your own daughter. This story was likely to have symbolized the strings that connects mother and daughter, and the fears that one has that those strings can be cut by uncontrollable forces. Thus, the art simply helped the written myth come to life and be more visualized and more emotionally understood. While the most significant sense to humans is sight, as I previously stated, the art has allowed for greater sympathy and remembrance in regards to the ancient myth of Persephone. Also, emotion can be hard to express through words, so the visual ability to portray them helps us understand the emotion, vulnerability, and exactly what it may be like to be one of the characters in this abstract myth. As I mentioned before, Medusa is likely a character you could easily visualize. While her unique feature has somewhat stayed the same over the thousands of years, the way that we picture her has likely altered. This is probably due to the evolution of how she is depicted in art and media. Let's go through some artistic representations of Medusa throughout history. First off, here we have a terracotta sculpture of Medusa dating back to the 2nd century BC. This was created when Medusa was used as a symbol to ward off evil, so people would use her as a decorative piece in or outside the house. In this sense, during the time, Medusa was depicted as not as evil as we may think of her now. While this is because the sculpture portrays her looking more kind, or simply the sculpture is a reflection of the view of her in the time, we may not know for sure. But I sure think that if the artwork was more devious looking, she would have gotten a more evil reputation. Next is this piece from 1597. This extremely well-painted oil painting on a circular canvas definitely depicts Medusa as a little bit more frightening. She even looks horrified herself. This shows that over the course of that time till when this was created in 1597, the perspective may have changed, or simply this specific artist wanted to portray her in a more scary way. Next, we have this beautiful but also a little bit weird looking piece of Medusa made in 1617. And this one definitely depicts her in a more gruesome way, and it is also depicting her after she was beheaded. So this piece definitely shows a more horrific way, but also makes us view her a little bit more as a victim rather than pure evil. This piece was created in 1680, and this piece definitely shows Medusa in a more evil looking way, and even it's hard to tell if it's a woman or a man. I think this is meant to show her aggression and her strength, but it's also causes us to feel more fearful. Now, this next piece was created in 1878. So as you can see, I'm going through the time periods in order. And this piece, the colors used almost depict her as if she herself is made of stone, even though usually she is seen to be putting others creating them into stone. But this is a more empathetic view of her, as she seems more of a victim herself and more someone who is misunderstood and almost is a victim of her own fate. Finally, we made it to modern day. So this was a Amazon ad created in 2021, and it is a more realistic representation of how you may see her, but it depends on what type of time period of art you were surrounded by. This definitely shows her as it's less pure evil and more of a unique and maybe misunderstood creature that is kind of scary looking, but at the same time has pure intentions. So after looking through all of these pieces in chronological order, I noticed that the evolution of Medusan art has definitely changed over time. And I think that overall, while it was a bit all over, through the time, it didn't go in a one direction way, which is, totally normal for art. But I think that overall we view her today as less of a pure depiction of evil and more someone who is misunderstood and someone who we may even pity in a way because of her unique and flawed features. Now, the final myth that we're going to focus on is Icarus and Daedalus. And so according to The Collector, Daedalus, a mythical inventor, created wings made of feathers and wax to escape from Crete, where he and his son, Icarus, were held captive by King Minos. Icarus, however, ignored his father's warnings and flew too close to the sun. His wings melted, and he fell into the sea where he met his end. While flying with wings made of wax is not something that is easily, relatable to humans, these images help us understand how this event took place visually, and also shows us how dramatic and traumatic this experience was for both Daedalus and Icarus. Also, the different pieces have definitely different interpretations for the reaction coming from Daedalus, because in some he is shown to be more distraught and that he is losing his son, while in others he is more disappointed in how foolish his son is. This definitely alters the perspective I have on him, and it also definitely helps me understand the relationship between Daedalus and Icarus, which is the main focus of this myth. To wrap things up, I have had a great time exploring the effects of art on Greek mythology with you. All of the pieces that we observed were amazing and inspiring to me, as I love creating art. Perhaps the reason all of these stories are so well known thousands of years later is partially to do with the artwork created to keep them alive, or maybe all of it. Through the pictures of Medusa's pieces, we were able to understand how art causes myths to evolve, and through the art of Persephone, we were able to understand and feel the emotion of the piece. All of these things that we learned teach us that art plays such a crucial role in the evolution and understanding of ancient Greek myths. I have even myself participated in this by creating a drawing of Daphne. I used my own imagery and perspective of her story to create this image to help her come alive. While you may not know her story, you may even start to feel like you can understand her basic traits, or this picture could alter your perception that you have on Daphne, the nymph floating in your mind. And in the future, Medusa may be viewed as a hero in a kids' movie, determining the perception how they interpret Medusa compared to past generations. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time.